good morning, everyone. I'm Alex Marion, the Syracuse City Auditor, and I'm here today to release our latest report. It's entitled Runaway Rentals, which is an analysis of the city's rental registry program, which looks at how we're doing on enforcement, how we're doing on its effectiveness. And this is a really critically important program. Syracuse is a majority renter city. 60% of the people who live in Syracuse are renters. And we need to ensure that we are giving all of our renters a quality, safe, affordable place to live. So let's talk about the rental registry. We've had a rental registry since 2007 with a few updates along the way, in part as a result of landlords who refuse to comply with the rental registry. The rental registry requires landlords to have an interior inspection of their properties and re-register with the city every few years. It applies to 1 and 2 unit dwellings, so single family or 2 family properties, and 3 or more unit dwellings have a different set of rules they need to follow, called the Certificate of Compliance, which is set forward by New York State. According to the data from the city's Neighborhood and Business Development Department through their open data portal, the rental registry has about a 33% compliance rate. And the city of Syracuse believes that there are about 10,000 properties that require registration. But when we did an analysis of it, we think that's an even larger number of properties. We treated all LLC properties, so properties owned by limited liability corporations, we assumed they were all rental properties, which many rental properties are owned by LLCs. We also assumed that all properties that lack a STAR exemption, which is a tax break that most homeowners qualify for, are also rental properties. Most homeowners in the city of Syracuse qualify for it unless your household income is over $500,000 a year, which we know there's probably only a handful of those. We believe the total number of properties that are eligible for the rental registry is as high as 15,000, meaning the total number of properties currently in compliance could be even lower, around 25%. Whether it's 25% or 33%, neither of those numbers are high enough. The city of Syracuse needs to do more to ensure compliance with the rental registry. In fiscal year 2023, and just so everyone knows, our fiscal years start July 1st and June 30th. In fiscal year 2023, there were over 1,300 violations issued. In fiscal year 2024, there were 748 violations issued. And in fiscal year 2025, which began last July 1st, and we've just kind of hit the halfway point on, there have been 354 violations issued to date. That's not enough if we are only seeing 33% compliance with the rental registry. The city can and must do better to ensure that we have rental registry compliance. Now, in this report that we've put out today, we lay out 13 recommendations to improve compliance with the rental registry. And some of those recommendations, I won't go through all of them with you, but some of those recommendations include having New York State extend the Certificate of Compliance requirements to 1 and 2 unit dwellings, requiring rental registry properties to post their certification on exterior doors so it's easily visible from the street so people know that a rental property is in compliance with the rental registry. Require the disclosure of lead pipes to tenants and require the removal of lead fixtures inside of a property before it can be rented. We also recommend that the city do more to improve landlord education, including begin a series of landlord education classes that would result in landlords being able to be certified as a good landlord or compliant landlord who understands the rules they need to follow as a property owner in the city of Syracuse. And I think from that, we can build out a compliant landlord list, which would be made publicly available on the city's website so that tenants, when they're looking to rent an apartment, can go and look and see if the person or entity they are renting from is in compliance with the rental registry and with if they have any code violations. This is actually something that there is agreement between myself and the City of Syracuse on, and in their response, which is included in the report, they have indicated that they are interested in pursuing this type of proposal and will be putting something forward later this year. The Common Council also needs to amend the rental registry ordinance to allow for the revocation of rental registry certificates if violations are issued to properties. The rental registry currently requires properties not to have any code violations, but if violations are issued, there is no process at this time for taking those certifications away from property owners, which there should be, and I believe the council needs to act on this. It's important to mention also, this is not unheard of work. This is not something new and unique to Syracuse. Communities across the state, communities across the country have rental registries. One of the first rental registries was enacted in Berkeley, California in 1978. And it is worth noting, it was passed in the same piece of legislation, which is an appendix to the report. It was passed in the same piece of legislation as Berkeley, California's Good Cause Ordinance. So Good Cause and the rental registry go hand in hand as protections for tenants. And we need to remember, the City of Syracuse is a tenant city. We are a tenant city. 60% of the people who live in the City of Syracuse are renters. So anytime one of these for rent signs goes up on a property, tenants deserve and demand to know that their property is safe, it is an appropriate place for them to live, it is somewhere they can live with their family and their children and have a safe, good quality of life. And a good functioning rental registry system will make that happen. I am joined here today by one of the best advocates the City of Syracuse has for the rental registry, and that's Jocelyn Richards, who's part of the Syracuse Tenants Union. So Jocelyn, why don't you tell everyone some of the work the Syracuse Tenants Union has done on the rental registry?
Sure. Hi, good morning. So Syracuse Tenants Union introduced our recommendations, I guess, for amending the rental registry about 2 years ago, and since then we've been meeting with city officials, representatives, different common councilors, and our city auditor, of course, to explain why we have these recommendations. And I'm really happy to see in this report that almost I think all of our recommendations have been included in the final list. So these are things that we've been in discussion with the city about for a while, and I think a lot of them will immediately and directly have an impact on tenants and improving how the rental registry is implemented and how it functions, and just being sure that properties that maybe have a certificate, that they have an inspection every 3 years, so a lot can happen in that time. So it is important that if there are violations that come up, that the certificate could be revoked, or code enforcement can continue making regular inspections of these apartments to make sure that tenants are living safely. So yeah, we're really excited also that one of the recommendations is to earmark funds that are collected from code violation fees, or the application fee to get a rental registry. Those funds could be earmarked for housing related costs. So whether it's rehousing tenants who have to temporarily relocate or things like that, we think it's really important that the city is kind of managing those funds, and so that landlords or those actors that are not complying, that they are the ones paying for to rehouse tenants, because holding them accountable instead of using the city's own money to do so. So yeah, we're really excited to see this report, and thank you so much to the city auditor and your research team for putting that together. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And what Jocelyn said, it's an important recommendation we've put forward as well, is directing the funds from code violations as well as rental registry signups to efforts that will improve housing in the city of Syracuse, because we know that in a 60% renter city, too many people are not living in high quality, good housing, and we need to do all we can as a community to make sure everyone has a good place to live. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that folks have.
The compliance issue obviously is a big challenge. And I've talked to, at least one landlord, and I'm sure there are others who, do their part to be part of the registry. But they say those who should be on the registry are not, and it's the good landlords that are sometimes getting caught up in all the red tape, and even though they're doing the right thing. How can that, gap be closed, to get the, more compliance by those who probably need to be more compliant?
Well, on one hand, there needs to be more education, because I think there are a lot of property owners who do not fully understand the rules, fully understand what they are required to be compliant with, fully understand what they need to do, and frankly how simple it is. Because the rental registry in Syracuse is you send in a form to the designated person over in code enforcement, you schedule your inspection, you get your, if there are any issues, you correct them. If there are no issues, you are immediately on there and you are good to go. It's not a complicated process. I believe that the city of Syracuse can do a better job with enforcement. As we say in the report, the number of violations issued to these properties has been decreasing over the last several years. That's a problem, especially when we know that there is maybe a quarter to a third of properties that need to be on there that are currently compliant. So we need our code enforcement folks to be out there doing more every single day to make sure when they see a property and they know or believe it should be on the rental registry and it's not, they should be starting out with citing it for that. We should be having folks patrolling neighborhoods to figure out what properties need to be on the rental registry. If we know that properties should be on the rental registry or likely candidates to be on the registry, we should be starting to cite them more aggressively to make sure that they are in compliance. Because the more often we can get folks in compliance, we will be able to give more people a safe, good place to live in this community.
Can codes handle that with the current staffing now? Because it sounds like that would be quite the undertaking, or maybe not. I don't know what's involved, but they're already, you always hear they're stretched and trying to keep up with a lot of other compliance for corner stores and other issues.
Ensuring people in the city of Syracuse, a majority renter city, have a safe place to live needs to be a top priority. And this is a very easy way to make sure that everyone has a good quality apartment. So do I think they can handle it? Yes, I absolutely think they can handle it. It's a question of how they prioritize resources, how they lay them out. Would I certainly like to see more code inspectors and a dedicated team working on just rental registry enforcement? Yes, absolutely, that would be great. But I think they can handle it with the resources they have today, and they need to simply make it a bigger priority.
So there's a lot of emphasis right now on bringing and keeping young people in Syracuse. First of all, do you think this message is going to permeate to them? And second of all, where is this list of people that you should be renting from?
Well, I'll start with your second question first. That list does not currently exist. That's something I'm proposing here, and the administration, in their response to the report, which is one of our appendices, says that they are interested in pursuing it. I look forward to them doing so. I look forward to the administration putting that forward eventually, hopefully at some point this year. Yes, I think that this is something that young people who want to stay in the city of Syracuse or that we're trying to attract into the city of Syracuse, I think this is something that is very attractive to them. Knowing that this is a city you can come into and have vetted, safe, quality places to live, yes, that should be attracting more people into our community. And I hope that going forward, having a good functioning rental registry program is able to be a gold standard imprimatur of the city of Syracuse, that yes, we have quality places for you to live that you can rent from.
Thank you.
You mentioned identifying even who should be on the registry. Can you talk a little bit about that, like some of these LLCs and what that process is? Like, where is it at and where do you go now?
Yeah, absolutely. So there is our Department of Neighborhood and Business Development uses a formula to figure out who they believe should be on the rental registry. Now, it is not an exact science, we know, but I believe that more can be done to include LLCs as part of that. Now, they've told me that they do some of that now, and they're happy and willing to broaden that. I think that's great. Some is good, more is better. I think that we need to assume that any 1 and 2 family house that is owned by an LLC by default is a rental property. We need to assume that every 1 and 2 family house not owned, every 1 and 2 family house that does not have a star exemption is a rental property. There is I think more we can do to try to identify those properties and then start proactively reaching out to them. You know, send the owners letters, send it to the tax addresses, send it to the water billing addresses, and say, we believe you're a rental property. Please tell us if you're not, but if you are, or if we don't hear from you, we will be sending someone out there to cite you as someone who should be on the rental registry. I mean, we have so much data, and this is something that I love and kind of geek out about, but we have so much data here in the city of Syracuse about who owns properties and how you can kind of piece that together, because we have the property's physical address, we have the tax billing address, we have the water billing address. There are so many ways we can try to track down who the appropriate owners and contacts of properties are, that we can be doing a good job reaching out to these folks. Another thing that I think is important to mention about the rental registry is it requires that properties not owned by folks that live in the city or Onondaga County have a locally designated property manager. Having a locally designated property manager goes a very, very long way to ensuring that a piece of property is well taken care of. So let's say that you inherit grandma's house. You live in Albany, but you inherit grandma's house and you're renting it out for a while. You should have someone here who can respond if your tenants need, if the grass needs to be cut. We get someone there who can ensure that if a pipe bursts, that they can make those calls and set up an appointment quickly. Having a locally designated property manager does a tremendous, tremendous amount to improve the quality of housing. And because so many of our properties in Syracuse, especially some of the properties that house our most low-income communities, are owned by out-of-town landlords and property owners, we need to make sure that we have folks on the ground locally who are responsible for the care and maintenance of those properties.
Did you believe that there are landlords that are intentionally avoiding being on the registry list?
Yes. Yes, I do. I think that there are landlords, and I do not want to paint all landlords with a broad brush. I think there are many folks out there who are property owners. They may inherit a property or have own a 2-family house, buy the house next to them as an investment, who take good care of their properties and do all the right things. We see that. We know, and we have the data to show who's paying their taxes, who's keeping up their properties, who's not having illegal set-outs, and who's getting permits for the work that they're doing. And is everyone going to do everything correctly? No. And I do think that the city should afford people who are trying their best, may make a mistake or not understand some requirements, afford them some grace. If they want to work with us, we need to work with them. I do think, and this is not a new problem in Syracuse, I think this is a long-standing problem. People from outside the city, people from outside our region, when you go through lists of code violations, which my office does on a regular basis, we see a lot of addresses in Brooklyn, we see a lot of addresses in Arizona, we see addresses in Utah, we see addresses in Texas and California. There are people who have perniciously gone through the city of Syracuse, bought up properties for years and years and years, simply as a method of extracting wealth from the poorest people who live in our communities, and they do not give a damn what happens to the people who live in their properties or the neighborhoods their properties are in. That needs to end. That is unacceptable. That is absolutely patently wrong. Those people should be ashamed of themselves. They have no business here in our community. They have no business doing business in our community. And having a well-enforced rental registry, especially one that takes care to ensure those people are following the rules, is essential to making sure that they are not doing anything more to exploit the people who live in our community. Anything else?
I guess
You got me going there.
No,
Yeah,
I
that's
great.
just in terms of, Walsh administration, common council,
Mhm.
Is there anything in the works right now to kind of add some of the teeth that you proposed here? I mean, what's the timeline? You mentioned, you know, hopefully within the year, but
Mhm.
is there anything like going through council committee or through the administration at this point that would give you hope?
I regularly speak with my colleagues in the administration and on the council to figure out ways we can improve our housing and ways we can, you know, update ordinances and change laws in a thoughtful and meaningful manner. I think that that's really important. I think I hope that a hallmark of my time in this office is good communication. I meet with the mayor regularly. I meet with some of his commissioners and staff pretty regularly. The folks in neighborhood and business development who ultimately oversee codes and oversee this, we're in very regular contact with. So I do believe that they are. I do believe that they are of good intent. They got a lot on their plate, but I do believe that they are of good intent. I just pulled up here the, you know, their response, which is deep inside the report here as one of our appendices. And you know, they have said in here a few times, you know, they like the idea of a good compliant landlord list, and they want to put something public facing out and an interactive map this year. You know, so I think that that's something they can do independently. They can kind of compile that data and make it possible. They have also said that they are, they have also said that they are working on an increased fine and fee schedule, which is currently underway, and that's one of our other recommendations, because the registration fee for the rental registry is currently $150. That is not a particularly large amount of money, especially for some of these characters that own many, many properties. I do not think raising that to $250 would be unreasonable, but every additional dollar that comes in through this program, I think, needs to go towards other programs that improve our housing. This program not only should pay for itself, but through registrations as well as fines and violations, that money should be going to pay for other programs, whether it's code enforcement or other necessary programs that can improve the quality of housing for neighbors across the city. All right, seeing none. Thank you all very much.